because of this low grip surface, it's a little bit like driving in the rain, in that you're constantly searching for grip. That's the key to going fast at Laguna.
Absolutely. Searching for grip, entering into a conversation with the car, all things that we've talked about in other areas and other webinars, and this is something that is going to be a recurrent theme for as long as we care to talk about stuff like that.
I think it's really important to break this track down into pieces and look at it. We really want to make sure that in order to assimilate all this information, what did you say? What's the easiest way to eat an elephant?
One bite at a time, right?
There you go. Absolutely.
Yeah. In this case, we're going to eat this elephant 3 bites at a time?
Yeah, probably.
Three big bites, but probably chewing on a few little bits in the...
Exactly. Yeah. We'll get there.
The
green area indicates massive compression. So you can really, this is one of the few areas where you can turn the wheel and go to wide open throttle in most cars without... So here... we're going to touch the inside curb at the 2/3 to 3/4 mark on the left-hand side.
Friendly curb?
Yeah, friendly curb, very friendly curb, because the car's very heavily loaded right here. I mean, it's really jacked up. Now, for a visual, you can look up at the covered false grid, the green canvas covers over the gathering area for the false grid on this end of the paddock. It's on the other side of a tree line right here, but you need to be committing to power.
Fast corners, if you're going to make that a speed adjustment, do it early in the fast corners. Slow corners, you can make that speed adjustment late. But in a fast corner like this, if you have to make some speed adjustment, do it early and be on power as you go through this thing. And in most cars, on power, we mean flat to the floor.
4 to 6 panels from the end. On the left-hand lower side of the screen, we're going to see a period of yellow. This is the area, this is the frustration zone. I'm going to stop calling it understeer, push. I'm just going to say frustration. Because every time I listen to people yell and scream, it's like, oh, the car won't turn. And there's a reason why.
So a little bit of patience here.
A little bit of patience can pay big dividends.
It's like a downhill skier. They clip on the backside of the gates. In this case, we got to think about clipping on the backside of the curbing. Great autocrossers are like that.
That's right.
You clip on the backside of a cone, and this type of corner, like this in turn one, I think really rewards that mental discipline of thinking I got to clip on the backside.
In connecting A and B, the two inside curbs on the inner loop on the bus stop, you really want to focus on drawing one arc, if at all possible. You also want to drive into the first left-hand curb. If you are reacting when you get to A, when you get to that first left-hand curb, you're going to be in trouble and you're not going to optimize your exit. But if you're planning and you're aggressive, and like you said about the curbing, the attitude of the car when presented to the curbing, either aggressively or less aggressively, can be dramatic. The difference can be dramatic.
Put a red line, which indicates that you should be parallel with the verge line beyond this second curbing or this last curbing on the right before you turn into turn 8. And the car has to be stable.
After you've turned into the corner, and now the car is all...
cattywampus. We call it
cattywampus. I love cattywampus.
It's a great word.
Yes. It's also wonky.
Yes, it is.
The balance of the car is just not right.
No, it's not. I sense that story's going to come up again, isn't it?
The trick in 14 is if you look to the apex curbing, just about every single car I've ever driven here, you will miss the apex.
Excellent.
You need to look to the grass inside the apex curbing.
Excellent.
If you look to the apex curbing, the grass inside it, the car will go to the curbing. But if you look at the curbing, you'll just be wide of it. So as you come down here, just as you get to the turn-in point, you got to be turning your head. And I'm constantly looking at drivers and seeing if they're turning their head. Yep. But actually, you want to look into the apex.
So you're saying, I need to look in this area.
And you need to aim for that.
Okay.
It's almost like you're turning in saying, I want to turn the car and get the car so that the inside tires are in the grass inside the curbing. And if you do that, because the car never reacts exactly as you want, well, I shouldn't say never. If you're driving quite slow, it will go exactly where you... But if you're driving the car close to its limits or at its limits, you'll turn in and you'll constantly find yourself being just a little bit wide of that apex curbing. So you need to actually aim inside it. And this was one of those things where one day I looked there and went, I'm going to try to turn it into the grass. And I went, boom, and I just clipped the apex curbing. It was like magic. And I've shared that with many drivers that I've coached, and they're like, wow, what a difference that makes of getting the eyes inside the
So
apex
one of the
curbing.
things that I like about the G sum, or the combined G, is the combined G will show moments of brilliance by every driver. I don't care what level of driver it is, even a novice driver is going to nail a corner, and they're going to have a little light bulb pop on in their head, and they're going to say, man, I nailed that. Now, when they go back and look at a intelligent video, and I call intelligent video any video that has these measures on it so that they can be reviewed along with the video to see what exactly is happening, they're going to see at that moment of flowing brilliance, as Bruce McGinnis from Skip Barber Racing said, they're going to see a really good number. They're going to see a maximum loading where the car is really hunkered down and really generating a lot of good force. And what they then need to do is evaluate where that occurred, whether or not there was some other topographical feature that helped it, like a hill or a compression, but also if they're able to generate in a corner a particular number, then if the topography is even remotely similar, they should be able to do that at other similar corners. So this whole idea of comparison can really help you identify the areas that you need to focus on to improve.
So if a driver is comfortable and has that flowing brilliance in one section of the track or one corner, and let's say the number is 1.4.
1.4.
1.4.
Hey, yeah.
1.4.
I like it.
Yeah, 1.4. And then they look at other parts of the track, and it's 1.1.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1.2.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1.
Mm-hmm.
That means that they're not using the full limits of the car
That's right.
in those other sections. So then it would be, okay, now I'm going to go and work on those other sections of the track and use that as a tool.
But I'm going to caution everyone to work incrementally. Don't just throw it against the wall and hope it sticks, because it often does not. One of the final things I want to say about combined G and G sum, though, is that G sum is a number that reflects how far out from the center the friction circle ball is.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we talk about in this friction circle right here is every time you hit the brakes, it goes out to a calibrated measure. Okay, the great engineer Buddy Fay wrote a book in 1993 called Data Power.
Yeah.
And it is still relevant today. It is out of print, but if you can get a copy, it's certainly worthwhile. And he, through sifting through mountains of data that he had, determined that most cars could brake with treaded R compound tires, could brake between 90 and 95% sustained deceleration, slowing, as they did sustained lateral loading. So 90 to 95% of the sustained or continuous cornering force, the car should be able to stop if the brakes and everything were working. If the car had slicks on it and the braking system were working properly and the car was stable, then honestly the ratio was closer to 1 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of drivers say, well, I'm going through that corner really good. But then you look at their braking deceleration and their combined G under braking, and it's quite a bit less than it is as they're going through these corners. So that would be an area where to look. Every club driver and every driver, as they progress through the ladder to get better, often masters singular skills like braking or cornering, but they have difficulty meshing those things together. The big difference between amateur drivers and professional drivers is the fact that they are seamless in their transition between maximum use of the brakes and then rolling that speed into the corner such that there is no loss between the end of braking in combined G or having that little friction circle come off the outside edge closer to the center and then go out to the edge in lateral loading. And one of the things that I've heard you talk about, I've heard a bunch of people talk about, and something that I talk about a great deal, is walking the friction circle ball around the outside edge of the friction circle. Now, if that happens, this number goes high and stays high all the way through. And obviously, as you open the steering wheel and come off the corner in a straight line, that number is going to ebb. Every time you go through a transition, that number is going to go to 0 and then come back up again because you're going through the center of the friction circle. But that is such a great indicator to establish a trend, you know?
Peter, you should learn to be a little more passionate about this. So, and I know you probably didn't think that when you signed up for the virtual track walk for COTA, you thought, well, now I'm getting a data webinar here too. So, we'll jump back into the track here.